It is said, when you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. This saying makes planning vital to socioeconomic development of any country. However, studies have clearly shown that failure to carry out components of an entity lead to disenchantment and a dysfunctional society. Today, Nigeria is grappling with multifaceted security challenges with over 90% of social vices linked to the youth. The young generation is a pivotal unit of the society, and experts emphasize youth inclusiveness and key to national development. In line with this, Nigeria has keyed into the United Nations Security Council's 2015 Resolution 2250 on youth, peace and security in recognition of the role young people can play in promoting peaceful coexistence. The National Action Plan, which is still a work in progress, is hoping to engage the youth build on the pillars of participation, protection, prevention, partnership and disengagement, as well as reintegration. Now, how vital is the role of youth in maintaining peace and unity? How valuable is the action plan given the current security predicament in the country? What strategies should constitute this national action plan for a progressive Nigeria? These issues will be the focus of discussion on the program Nigeria Today. Thank you for joining us. I am Anne Jibuno. Now in the studio with me to discuss the National Action Plan on Youth, Peace and Security is Executive Director, Center for Sustainable Development and Education in Africa, and co-chairman, Nigeria Coalition on Youth, Peace and Security, Theophilus Ekpo. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Also with us is the Deputy Director, Research Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution, Andy Gemneme. Nice to have you join us.
Thank you so much.
Let me begin with you, Theophilus. You co-chair the National Action Plan on Youth, Peace and Security. What actually gave birth to this idea?
Thank you very much. The National Action Plan on Youth, Peace and Security, which is a product of the Nigeria Coalition on Youth, Peace and Security, started in 2015 after the United Nations adoption of the UN Security Council Resolution 2250 on Youth, Peace and Security. And in Nigeria, stakeholders felt the need to domesticate that document in order to address issues of youth, peace and security in Nigeria. So at that point, the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution, the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, and the Center for Sustainable Development and Education in Africa, and even Search for Common Ground, came together among other organizations to sit together and see how stakeholders can domesticate that document in Nigeria. So that is why we were able to come up with the National Action Plan on Youth, Peace and Security that we affirmed today.
Okay, I'll still stay with you. What are the components of the action plan?
Well, the action plan is based on 5 pillars. And those 5 pillars are participation, protection, prevention, partnership, then reintegration and disengagement. So these areas, if you look at it very holistically, it addresses issues of youth and violence in Nigeria. Because what we're trying to do is not to look at young people as the problem, but look at them as part of the solution and harness their positive potentials for peace building and national development.
Okay, let's move over to Andy Nkemneme. Let's look at how critical it is for youth inclusiveness in nation building. That's how critical is it to have inclusive youth included in nation building at this trying moment of our national history, especially promoting peace and unity?
Yeah, once more I say thank you for calling us here. Statistics have shown that the population of the youth in Nigeria is more than 60%. Also, statistics have shown that more than 90% of violence committed in Nigeria today have their origin with youths. So it becomes very critical. Not only that we are going to, how do we use the 60% of our youth, harness their potentials and use them positively to national development, it also helps us to reduce the number of youths that are involved in violent conflict. Nigeria today, the level of violent conflict is rising every day. And whether we have conflict entrepreneurs or shadow actors there, they still use the youths because these youths are mobile. These youths are aggrieved. This youth is like the Nigeria we have today is like the youths against the nation. And we are looking at it that instead of allowing these youths to channel their energy into conflict, we can comfortably harness this energy, this youthful energy, into positive ways of building peace and development for the country. So it becomes very critical that we harness the youthful population of our country positively, so that we're able to build not only a peaceful Nigeria, but we're able to make sure that their energy is also creates gain for the country, creates development for the country, increases our GDP, increases our economy. So that's some of the issues we are looking at. How do we make sure that these youth are harnessed to give us the type of development that we want for the next 10 years, next 20 years, and next 50 years? Just as the presenter said, if you plan to fail, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. What youth are we going to do? We actually are looking for the next 50 years for this country. If we don't start harnessing them now, channeling their efforts and putting them in the right direction, we are planning to fail.
Yeah, I'll stay with you, Mr. Andy. You are of the Peace and Conflict Resolution, Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution. In harnessing these potentials, what areas should the youth be engaged in?
Yeah, just as Theophilus said, the National Action Plan has pillars. If we are talking of prevention, we are looking at how do we use the youths to prevent conflict. One thing the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution does, especially when we go to resolve conflicts in communities, is to make sure that we establish peace volunteers in such communities. Not only that we use them as early warning agents, we also use them to resolve minor conflicts before they become violent. So when we talk of prevention, we are looking at how do we use the youths to prevent conflict. We're looking at for example, what is happening in Niger Delta today. We have the Partners for Peace working extensively in Niger Delta. They are all volunteers. They are working with Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution in so many ways to see that violence is being prevented. Conflict, yes, is a normal thing in the society. But what we are looking at is how do we make sure that such conflicts are not violent in nature. If you look at the other pillar of participation, how do we get used to participate extensively, not in the development of the country? Is it in electionary? Is it in the elections? Is it in the economy? Is whichever aspect of economy of the polity you talk of, we want to see how our youth can participate extensively. Not if you allow them. They said that the idle mind is a devil's workshop. If you allow them, conflict entrepreneurs can recruit them and use them for conflict. We look at what happens during the elections. Who are those who carry ballot boxes? They are not people of 50, 60 years. They are the youth. They use the youth. But if the youth are properly engaged, extensively engaged, such things, they will see it as vices, and they will also try as much as possible to curtail it. So also do we have the other pillars. Other pillars, even when we're talking of volunteers, the area we're looking at, for example, is in the rehabilitation process, for example, of youths who are involved in conflict. How can we use the youth themselves to rehabilitate their colleagues who have been involved in conflict, who are traumatized as a result of conflict? So engaging the youths in every aspect of the pillars, the 4 Ps, and the rehabilitation and reintegration and partnership is very critical.
Okay, now, Mr. Theophilus, let's talk about the National Action Plan proper. Who are those, involved in this, and what role are they playing currently?
Well, right now, we now have the Nigeria Coalition on Youth, Peace and Security. So the Nigeria Coalition on Youth, Peace and Security is on top of it right now. And then the administrative support is coming from the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development. They are in charge of it administratively, and that is where the Secretariat of the Nigeria Coalition on Youth, Peace and Security is. And then also the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution. They are providing the technical expertise needed to ensure the development of that document, which is done now, and also the implementation of the document. Then, of course, you have several civil society organizations, including ours, the Center for Sustainable Development and Education in Africa, that are also supporting the process, and of course, hundreds of youth groups and youth organizations.
Let's understand or know the level of the implementation of this action plan.
Okay, right now the action plan is being developed. It went through various focus group discussions. First, it went through a desk review, focus group discussions, and we have local consultations, state consultations, zonal consultations, national consultations, and then we had 2 validation meetings before today's affirmation meeting. So we are now expecting the document to be launched by the Honorable Minister for Youth and Sports Development, and hopefully the federal government will be able to give that support at that level for the launch. We are looking at the presidency as well actually playing a key role, because we see this document as key to support issues of youth, peace and security in Nigeria. We just had the NSAS. We see what is on ground, and we need to urgently address these issues in a very holistic and sustainable manner.
Now, Mr. Andin Kemneme, you spoke of conflict entrepreneurs. How do we protect the youth from these persons? They are known, obviously. How do we protect the youth from these persons, and what's been done in that area?
Yeah, as I said before, an idle man is a devil's workshop. If you decide to keep the youth idle, entrepreneurs will hack in on them. A hungry man is actually an angry man. We have what is the employment rate in Nigeria today? More than 50% or more than 50% of our youth are unemployed. What does that mean? It means they are hungry. It means they are looking for daily bread. It means they are looking for somebody who can provide for them 1 or 2 square meals a day. And if they don't have it, nature abhors vacuum. If they don't have it, somebody will provide it. And that is a major thing. So the issue of employment in our country today is critical in this document. How do we make sure that the youths are engaged? Not only engaged, positively engaged, to be able to be economically independent. If somebody goes to work, he won't have time to go and commit crime. It's because he doesn't have much to do. He will start thinking of, how do I take care of myself? So the issue of employment is critical in this document. We emphasize it at all levels, both at the local level, at the state level, zonal level, and the federal level. Unfortunately, employment is not properly, personally, is not properly addressed in this country. We are looking at employment as something that will come from the federal government. The public sector in every economy is a sector that provides the greatest number of employment. So if we want employment, the youth should be properly employed and gainfully employed. We need to expand the horizon of the public sector. We need to look at what are their challenges, why they cannot, for example, run 24-hour shift. There are manufacturing companies in this country.
You mean the private sector?
The private sector. But the manufacturing companies in this country, in those days, were running shifts, morning, afternoon, night shift. Why can't they do same now? Because of power. Why are Nigerian products more expensive than foreign products? Because of power. If we address the issue of power, I'm sure most companies will expand their productivity.
And
more people will be gainfully employed. I'll give you a typical example. I'm from Mbise, and when we're growing up, for example, in Imo State, when we're growing up, for example, we had more than 10 companies in our local government, in our area. But today, those companies are all dead. Ask them why, what happened. It's about power. They couldn't sustain the energy they need to manufacture their product. So the issue of gainfully empowering the youths with skills is very, very critical.
Okay, that's actually noted. Let's pause for now. We'll take a break. I'll be back shortly to continue with the program. Thanks for staying with us. The program is Nigeria Today, and we're discussing the National Action Plan on Youth, Peace and Security. Still with me in the studio is the Director, Center for Sustainable Development and Education in Africa, and Co-Chairman, Nigeria Coalition on Youth, Peace and Security, Theophilus Ekpo, and as well as the Deputy Director, Research Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution, Andy Nkemneme. Mr. Andy, I'll take off with you. There has the federal government and state governments as well, in some way, have provided better enabling environment for, the youth to, take advantage of in the area of agriculture and some other sectors. Let's get your suggestion on youth inclusiveness. How can the youth latch on this, take advantage of this, and get more involved in the system?
Yeah, the federal government is actually trying with their programs, especially, just as you said, in the area of agriculture. But we also note that this area has its own peculiar problem, especially when it relates to conflicts in Nigeria. The agricultural sector is one sector that is actually being threatened by conflicts. We have the farmer-herders conflict that is actually threatening agriculture. We have communal conflicts all over the country that is threatening agriculture. So food security in the country today has become an issue.
Okay, let's get your suggestion on youth inclusiveness.
Basically, you see, what the point I was trying to make is, if the land, the agriculture itself, the policies involved with agriculture itself are not right, the youth can never be inclusive. The inclusiveness of the youth cannot be achieved. So we are looking, I'm talking at a situation where we'll start from the policy level, get the environment, the enabling environment for the youth to actually work on. I give you a typical example. If the land tenure system is not looked at, how do we do mechanized farming? How does the youth get involved in proper agriculture. Yes, today we are talking of things like fishery, we're talking of things like poultry and all those things. But food as it is that goes from the farm is being threatened because of conflicts that are everywhere. Conflicts, let's take the Middle Belt, for example. The conflict in the Middle Belt has actually reduced the food production of this country. The conflict in the Southeast has reduced the food production of this country. And it becomes very clear that we need to rejig the policies so that the youths can be comfortably get into agriculture and know that if they are into agriculture, they will fend for themselves and they can fend for themselves and fend for their family tomorrow. If they know that they cannot fend for their family tomorrow through agriculture, the issue of inclusiveness might not be achieved.
All right, Mr. Theophilus, let's look at your plans for youth who have lost their way in this National Action Plan. Some are out of school, others have taken to drugs, and then some in criminal activities. Do you have a place in this action plan for this set of persons?
Yes, it's also linked. The first one is linked to your earlier question about, how young people can be linked up with some of these programs. Because if you look around, it's something that was a major debate when we were having these consultations. There are several federal government programs, including the ones in agriculture, the CBN programs and all of that, that young people are not aware of. So, and these programs, I think, need to, like those that are out of school, they need this, even those who are graduates, they need these programs. So how do we link them to these programs? How are they aware? Where do you register? How do you go online? Because again, this is also another area that, our policy makers need to look at, because some of these people don't have access to the internet. So how do they go online? Where do they apply to some of these programs? So this is part of what the National Action Plan on Youth, Peace and Security will also be looking at in terms of livelihoods and employment. Then also, yes, in terms of drug use, it's a major issue that because as part of the development of the National Action Plan on Youth, Peace and Security, the Nigeria Law Drug Enforcement Agency, they were part of the development, and they made sure it was a very key issue raised in the document. So it will be addressed. We are looking at rehabilitation of those who are drug users and also how to get them alternatives, because you need to create alternatives for them.
Do you think the missing gap, or rather the missing link, is the youth participating in politics? Do you think this will help in giving the youth more sense of responsibility? They participate more in politics?
Yeah,
that's Theophilus.
Participation is broad. Yes, politics is one aspect of it. The political space needs to be opened up. The young people, because some of the barriers, we know some of these barriers, like a young person buying the form, is difficult. The nomination forms for parties, for party primaries. So some of these are barriers to young people actually getting into politics. So some of these barriers, there's need to eliminate some of these barriers so that the young people can get into politics. But it is not just politics, there's participation in the economy as well, in the private sector, because, the private sector is what drives the economy. So are young people able to participate in the private sector? Is there an enabling environment? So participation is very broad. It's very broad-based.
Okay. Let's get your final thoughts, Andy. Very briefly, please.
Okay. One thing I would like to do here is the youths need to rise up. A document has been produced. That took us 5 years to produce this document. And the implementation plan is coming up in the next 1 month to determine how the strategy of actually making sure that the National Action Plan has life. So the youth need to rise up and key into this document and see how they can not only use the document, but also use it to develop the nation.
Thank you very much, Andy Nkemneme, the Deputy Director, Research Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution. Thank you for joining us today. And as a key partner in the National Action Plan, we appreciate all that you're doing.
Thank you.
And we also thank you, Theophilus Ekbo, Director, Center for Sustainable Development and Education in Africa, and the co-chairman, Nigeria Coalition on Youth, Peace and Security. We really appreciate the work you're doing to get the youth on the front row of national development. Thank you for your insights.
Thank you.
Well, that's Nigeria Today. We thank you very much for staying with us. The program airs every weekday at 7:30 in the evening on NTA News 24. You can watch this and other editions on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. I am Anne Jibuno. Thanks for your time.
O-level credits in relevant subjects, including English language and mathematics. The courses available for application include film and television production, broadcast journalism, and television engineering technology.